Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I was just a bit irritated because GoTo was still talking to me and I wasn't sure if you could hear me, but very warm welcome to all of you who are participating today in our webinar. My name is Jonas Vali. I'm a senior data consultant with Merkle. Been working here for 4 years with a high focus on data collection, distribution, and CDPs. With me today is my colleague Petter from Prague.
Hey, nice to meet you all. My name is Petr Švec. I'm a senior data architect and recently appointed manager of data engineering and data architecture in Merkle DACH. So back to Jonas. Start the show, please.
Yes, so we'll be talking about CDPs today, as you probably all know, as you signed up for this webinar. We will have 45 minutes, maybe some time left after that also. So we're gonna have a presentation for you, and then in the end, we'll have some time to answer your questions. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you would like us to go into a bit more detail at the end, please feel free to put in your questions in the chat here, and we'll have some time to talk about them afterwards. So all data one platform is our tagline, which is basically the main goal of a CDP. But yeah, we'll take a few steps back and tell you a bit about the most crucial parts that you need to take into account when talking about a CDP. So we have a short agenda. We'll be talking about the most pressing question, what a CDP is and what a CDP does for you, and also answer some of the more pressing questions like data privacy and identity resolution, and how this data can be used for customer journey automation. In between, we'll always have short breaks to talk about a use case that we developed that a bit more vividly shows what a CDP is capable of and how it's working. In the end, we'll also talk about vendors a bit, but we're just gonna scrape a bit of ice off the tip of the iceberg on that one. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump in. So we'll have a bit more time for questions in the end. So what does a CDP do, right? So basically, the main focus for CDPs is to collect first-party data. That first-party data means all data that you can produce using your marketing channels, right? So this is especially relevant in terms of also cookieless tracking in the future. So this is why CDPs have come up over the last years a bit more, and they will be a lot more relevant in the future. So what they'll do in the end, or what they'll enable you to do, is to create a single view of your customers. So you'll have a pretty good idea of what the interests of your customers are, and also how they interacted with your channels, and what conclusions you can draw from their behavior towards the different channels you have. Basically, this helps you to orchestrate your audience a bit better. So you can really focus your marketing efforts on the user groups that are most relevant for you in general, or for your campaign, or for a certain use case. In the end, this all boils down to some personalization, to really create an experience around your customer and not trying to put customers to a certain experience, right? So this will really help you build and maintain personal relationships with your customers, which business has always been about, kind of, right? So when you wanted to buy a product a few hundred years back, or not entirely 100 years, but even going back a bit less than that, you went to a shop and you had a personalized or personal conversation with the vendor, and then ended up buying some stuff. So this is kind of where we're trying to get, again, with the help of CDPs. So apart from being an acronym, the CDP is not a single thing, but it's rather a collection of capabilities, and this is a really important thing to understand when talking about CDPs a bit more. So usually what all of them have is some form of data collection, manipulation, and ingestion, and then on the other hand you have your output, right? So it's really these two key pillars: is collecting the data, managing it into a format that can be worked on a global level, and then actually work with that data. So you'll have the kind of more bluish actions here, which evolve around orchestration and the actual marketing, and you have the more orange stuff, which is really about collecting the data and working with the data. So while this is a real high level, let's dive a bit into how this can look on a technical level. And don't be afraid, it's not going to get too technical, but yeah, this is a part of it. So let's jump in. So basically, in this architecture, we have our CDP in the middle. So it's sitting between all of your touch points that your customers interact with in terms of your brand, and on the other hand, you have remarketing stuff. And really, in the middle of that sits the CDP. And while the different vendors or different CDPs may have a different architecture, this is what most of them look like in the end. So again, this is a very simple version of it, but it really helps understanding what's being done. So I will take you now from the left to the right here to see how the data flow is looking, and how data is processed to work and orchestrate audiences from the CDP. So on the left, as I said, you have your touch points, right? A touch point can be a website, it can be a mobile app, can be a brick and mortar store, right? So that's basically all the opportunities your customers have to get into contact with your business or with your brand. So basically your first party data, right? So this is where the data has been collected and then ingested into the CDP. And usually this is actually the first really huge part of work when setting up a CDP, is the data ingestion, because usually all the different tools have kind of different data formats, and it's really key to bring that all together into a format that the CDP in the end can work on. And this is then what we like to call where the magic happens, right? So we're taking all the data from the different touch points and stitching it into one single profile that is both identifiable and enriched in terms of user and customer interest and stuff like that. So we'll then have a pretty clear picture of our customer. We'll have a huge amount of data, which we then can use prediction models or machine learning algorithms to really enhance the segmentation. I mean, segmentation has been around in marketing forever, but here we can really automate that process a bit better. We'll get into a bit more detail on that in a second. Petra will tell you a bit about it, but this is kind of where the real advantages of a CDP actually lie, right? So you usually are able to apply machine learning capabilities to your data to then dynamically segment your audiences, which then helps with orchestration, right? So this is kind of the orchestration layer, which is not always too present with all the CDPs. So some CDPs basically only focus on really stitching your data, doing the stitching and the prediction models, and then just send a push to your marketing tools. But some of them, like and other tools, have like entire workflows that you can just do orchestration within your CDP directly. And I mean, this boils down to an activation over a channel that you then can again collect data to, right? So this is kind of where the loop starts from the beginning, and in the next iteration of this loop, we'll have some more enriched data, which we can then process in the CDP and take into account when creating our segments and orchestration. So that was the theory bit. I will now hand over to Petra to show you a bit how this can work in a more tangible use case with an actual customer.
Thank you, Jonas. So let's take a look at the example use case we prepared to basically give you some, let's say, hands-on intuition on how CDP can work with your day-to-day relations with your customers, right? So this is John, your standard geek. He likes to travel, follows technology news, reads fantasy books, and plays PlayStation games. He also likes music very much, and he would like to play in a rock band. In order to play in a rock band, he starts thinking he needs to buy an electric guitar. So what John starts is that he starts looking for what type of electric guitar he needs, and where to buy it. He browses through eShops, and at the one he likes the most, he subscribes to a newsletter. While he's at it, he fills out a questionnaire where he checks that he's into rock music and gives his consent to receive marketing communication. He uses his secondary email, so he is not bothered by ads on his primary email address, which is hosted on Gmail. Quick note here. His email is saved directly into a mailing system of the company operating the eShop. It is siloed from the rest of the website, since the company does not want to force login when subscribing to the newsletter. After a while, John starts seeing ads on Instagram, which he opens. This brings him back to the eShop he liked previously, but he still wasn't registered there. So all the company got was a bunch of anonymous data about what he had viewed while browsing. After some time passing and a lot of time John choosing the right guitar and reading all possible reviews, he decides for the right electric guitar for him. He registers in the eShop, which we mentioned previously, and leaves a first set of contact details. This time he uses his primary Google account to register, so the company gets a different email address from the one John entered when he subscribed to the newsletter. But wait, John wants to try the guitar before buying it. So online, he buys just the guitar music sheet for him and his girlfriend. He finds out the electric guitar availability in a brick and mortar shop, and he sets off there. In the shop, he tries the guitar, he likes it, and decides to buy it. When he's buying the guitar, a seller convinces him to sign up for a loyalty program, and John leaves a second contact set of phone number and secondary email address, which is again the same one that he used when he was filing up the subscriber list. But wait, when filling out the paper form for the loyalty program, he made a typo in his surname. Instead of John Doe, his name there is John Jew, right? So let's recap what information company received from him. So we received 3 sets of contact data. We received some engagement data about newsletter clicks and products he viewed. We received some purchase data from the website for the music, so from the sheet music, and from the point of sales from the brick and mortar shop where he bought the guitar. And we also received some preference data when he was filling out the newsletter subscriber list. He said that he likes the rock music. So let's take a look at worst case scenario, right? Imagine we are a company, music equipment reseller that does not have CDP in place and uses a plain data warehouse, some SQL-like database to handle all of this data. So the data about anonymous browsing and clicks on Instagram ads doesn't have a clear identity. So it's not basically simple to link it with the rest of the identities. So basically we are losing that. And if there are no algorithms implemented in the data warehouse to unify customers, then because of different contact information and typos that John made, the company might see John's digital fingerprint as 3 different identities. John, who is just a lead and is waiting for his registration in the eShop, coming from the newsletter subscriber list. John, who bought a sheet music in the eShop and didn't give his permission for marketing communication. And finally, John, who bought an electric guitar and is collecting loyalty points. So with this in mind, let's look at somewhat more positive outcome, how this could go. And I'm passing my word back to Jonas.
Right, thanks. So yeah, like Petro said, we ended up with like 3 profiles on the same person in different silos, right? So now we need to stitch all of these profiles together. So we have different emails, which we can now not use as an identifier, but we are pretty lucky because John used the same email address, not email address, the same phone number. While using different email addresses. So we can use that as an identifier to actually get this view of him. So, and this view actually includes all of the touch points we had before, because we can bring that phone number together with the different email addresses, right? So we know now what he did on the website, so kind of what other projects he may be interested in apart from the guitar he viewed. We know he already visited the brick and mortar shop, and we know that he bought a guitar. And this is in the end what it all boils down to, right? It's really about getting all the information from all the silos we have on persons. So we'll have a lot of kind of anonymized, non-enriched profiles and bringing them into a state where they are enriched and identifiable. And this can look like that, right? So we'll have a matrix here, and we'll on the bottom left part is where we all started, right? So we have a bit of enrichment, for example, from anonymous browsing. So we might know, the region that person might be from, but we don't really have any other information. And on the other extreme, or not on the other extreme, but we're trying to get the people to the top right corner where we have enriched data. Enriched meaning, okay, we have a lot of information on what type of content these people interacted with on the one hand, and on the other hand, we have an identifiable person that we can then target, right? So we could already, base lookalikes on highly enriched profiles which you can't identify. So this is already beneficial, right? But to really use the CDP to its full capability, we need enriched and identifiable profiles. When talking about enriching and identifying, we need to talk data privacy, right? And this comes up, naturally comes up a lot when talking about this. And there's a lot of concerns here because, I mean, this is a huge issue, right? We're talking about, working with personalized data here, and we really need to be careful what to do with the data, because it's a huge responsibility. So in order to be able to do that, we need the visitor's consent, right? And in terms of visitor consent, for me, I like to think of kind of two layers of defense within the architecture. So going back to the architecture of the CDP, our first line of defense is the actual consent on the touch point, right? So for a website, for example, this can be a cookie banner, or on a mobile app, this is the switching on and off the data collection. And if that consent isn't given, there's no data tracked whatsoever that we can then use in the CDP, right? So this is the actual first layer of defense. It's really, can we track the data, yes or no, right? And this is not necessarily part of the CDP itself, because that's usually part of your initial touch point. The second line of defense is actually within the CDP, and all of the CDP vendors provide you with a good arsenal to really enforce data protection laws. So this can be as granular as really on a column level in a table of customer data, where you can label certain columns with, all right, this data can never be passed on to any third-party marketing tool like MailChimp, for example, or this profile can never be activated via emails, right? So this is stuff you can, for example, put in your data privacy notices when it comes down to newsletter subscriptions, right? So there's really a lot of potential to actually enforce these kind of data protection laws. And this is also a part where most of the vendors are working on constantly to cater to the changes in laws that are currently going around Europe. Yeah, definitely, it's a thing that needs to be addressed, from my experience, also at a very early stage from these type of projects, because naturally there are a lot of concerns, and these concerns are there for a reason. And this is a topic that needs to be talked about in a lot of detail. Unfortunately, not in as much detail as we can go into right now, but yeah, feel free to add any questions here. We will still assume that our person from the use case, John, both consented to tracking data on the website or on the touch point, and also opted in to being contacted via email and via marketing. So now back to Petter, who will tell you about what we can do with his data.
So segmentation possibilities. with the CDP in place, right? So with CDP in place, we can now consider that we have database full of unified customer profiles similar to John's one from the use case, or those enriched one that Jonas showed us in his slides. And basically, in order to put the data in use, we need to start segmenting profiles into some useful sets that we can later leverage in our communication strategy. Without any complex data transformations, we can already start segmenting profiles, for example, based on available demographics and simple attributes like device used to browse the eShop of ours. Additionally, since we can enrich profiles with event information, for example, that a specific customer showed interest in a specific product or a category, we can create segments also using this data. So basically, segment is, for example, this particular person clicked on this particular product or showed interest. So if we put all this information together, the activation strategy can look very similar to the following table. Let's try now. Yeah. And this table basically shows the high-level example. If we stay on our use case and we pretend we are a music instrument wrestler, the segment-based activation can use basic segmentation attributes like the customer's main instrument in combination with event-based segmentation attributes describing customer's action on a website. So we can connect the segmentation attributes to appropriate we can connect those attributes combination to appropriate channel communication. So presented example is very basic. It will get much more complex when we start thinking about costs of individual channels and margin we can get from a single sale, etc. But luckily we can, let's say, spice it up with a little bit of machine learning, right? So basically, if we start talking about these, we can present some additional use cases that can basically improve and enrich this segment-based activation with some smart modeling. So let's try for another slide. Yeah, so typical use case of machine learning used in marketing is propensity modeling. Propensity model, when properly trained, scores the whole customer base with the probability with which particular customer buys our product or product range. In our case, for example, John will buy new strings with a 90% or 96% probability. In this case, it would be enough to just send him email communication, hey, here's strings you might like. But if the probability would be lower, right, we can consider, for example, a small discount that might convince him to buy. If we combine multiple propensity models together, let me try for another slide, doesn't work. Yeah, thank you. If we train multiple propensity models for different product groups or categories, they can be combined into so-called next best offer model. This will give us answer to the question of what offer to send to particular customer in the next communication. Again, let's stay true to our use case. For example, once John buys an electric guitar, next thing he might likely want will be set of new strings, or for example, set of picks, or maybe even another guitar, right? And last typical marketing use case is customer lifetime value model. This is not something that would give us basically a percentage between the customer and particular product, but this is a model that will help us segment customers by lifetime value, which means basically the value we can expect them to bring us in the future. This will help us mostly with planning of our marketing communication costs, because customers we estimate to buy, the customers we estimate to be of a low value will be excluded from the more expensive campaigns and communications, and conversely, the customers who are estimated with high value, or maybe the most valuable customers, we will basically want to squeeze them properly with the let's say active marketing and campaigns. Or we can also do it the other way and test whether there is maybe some marketing approach that would move low value customers into the more profitable groups. So apart from these examples, the propensity modeling, next best offer, and this custom lifetime value, there are much more machine learning use cases which we can introduce, but let's stay on these three now, and let's see how the smart segmentation can improve using these models. So apart from the next slide, please. Yeah. Now it works. So this slide basically shows how we can expand the segmenting possibilities, and the one after shows how we can basically embed this, for example, propensity modeling into our decision smart segment-based activation matrix, right? So instead of just right away displaying a message or display ad for people who showed interest in buying electric guitar, we now check also the propensity model results, which tells us, hey, I want to basically pay for ads only for customers which has propensity higher than 60% to buy, for example, guitar or set of acoustic drum kit, right? So now we will spend marketing budget on our customers that are more likely to respond to our communication by buying our products. So let's now explore how we can improve the marketing automation using CDP. So back to you, Jonas.
Right, thanks. So basically what you saw now is just, one example of using the smart segmentation, right? So we use the propensity model to see how likely people are to buy a certain product. But what also really helps and what's usually always done with this type of projects is to assume where in the customer journey these people are, to really be able to provide the right content at the right time for that individual person. And this is one slide too far. Sorry, there's a hiccup with GoTo, I think. Right. So this is again what we want to achieve, right? So we want to have a view on the customer towards the customer journey as well. So if we take a look at our example, John, we know, okay, he's past the purchase phase, right? Because he bought a guitar. So now we can leverage the data we collected previously, or while he's still browsing the website, we can use that to bring him more into the retention phase, or really push the retention to really bind him to the brand, right? So as Petter said, this can be a lot of activities, right? This can be follow-up offers, this can be cross-selling, this can just be a new stage teaser on the website catering to his taste of music, for example, right? Or to the shapes of guitars he bought. So this is really stuff where the marketing department can get really creative on. But let's stick with a very simple use case. So let's say we want to really keep him as an advocate for the brand, us being an instrument shop, right? So what we could do now is, as a next best offer, like Petter said, we could offer him a guitar case. This can also, be dependent on how pricey the guitar was that he bought. This can be used for a personalized newsletter, for example, saying, all right, you spend a lot of money on your guitar. Now get a case so you can have a longer, more beautiful life with your guitar, right? Also based on, for example, what style of music you might be playing, we could offer him strings or new picks after a month, or taking this further, a year after the purchase, you could give him a discount on his first guitar service, right? So this is stuff that you could usually also do with your marketing tools, for example, like an Adobe campaign or a MailChimp or something like that. The point being here is you're not restricted to a channel, but you can do this on any channel, and you can use this data to really drive the communication on all channels and really provide the same message, kind of putting your client into that direction, right? So really, again, like this is looking like a really simple email workflow, but it's really a cross-channel orchestration. So it's really taking a step back and enabling you to see the full picture of all the channels and all the marketing activities that you are doing. So while this kind of wraps up what you can do with CDPs, we'll take some more minutes to take a look at the vendors and how you can take first steps by, to kind of check what vendor might be the right one for you.
So as said at the beginning, let's just scratch the surface because there is a lot of CDP vendors to choose from, and there is not a single nor simple way on how to find whose solution fits your use cases the best. CDP vendor logos you see in the slide do not represent a complete list of potential vendors. Since the CDP topic is quite new and sometimes overlapping with other topics like DMP, data management platform, or NDM, master data management platforms, new vendor solutions are still being introduced. So on the side, you can see names of big corporations, as well as mostly unknown boutique brands with tailored solutions. This leads us to the only simple categorization of vendors that's basically there. We can divide them into vendors that supply not only the CDP capabilities, but the whole other set of software and infrastructure tools. And on the other side, vendors who provide a single purpose specialized software tools, sometimes even focused on particular use cases, like, for example, gaming or pharmaceuticals, etc. So where to start with this jungle of options? The usual first step is to identify requirements you have for the CDP solution itself. The Venn diagram on the slide is crazy oversimplification of the actual selection process with just 3 arbitrarily selected requirements: custom data model, probabilistic identity resolution, and integrated machine learning modeling workbench. This is maybe how a selection process in your organization can start. For example, if we take a look at the integrated machine learning modeling workbench, let's say you are a company who is very big, you have your own department of data scientists, and you want them to basically leverage, for example, Jupyter Python notebooks coming directly out of from your CDP, right? If this would be the case, maybe this could be like a requirement you can have for the CDP solution, right? This doesn't mean that those solutions are better or worse. It's just availability there, because if you wouldn't have the big department full of data scientists, this will be basically just a let's say paid feature you never use, right? So please note that the actual selection process will be likely quite complex and definitely won't fit into a simple Venn diagram like this. Most likely it won't be even Venn diagram at all. So let's keep the Pandora's box of vendor selection closed for now, and let's wrap up what we learned about the CDP capabilities. So back to you, Jonas.
Yes, thanks. So yeah, what's left for us to do is to put all of the information you got into a nutshell, right? So there's really these 4 things that a CDP can help you with, right? So it focuses on first-party data, right? So which gives you the opportunity to really leverage all the data you are collecting and using that to your advantage. So this first-party data approach will also help you in the future of in terms of cookieless marketing, because a lot of these CDPs are can be server-based, which helps you with the usage of cookies, because you end up not needing so many anymore. In the end, what it boils down to is you get a unified customer profile, right? You get this unified customer profile, which contains information that is identifiable and enriched. This means you can actually activate people because you know who they are and you know what they're interested in. So you'll really be able to build the experience around your customer and not the other way around. And by using this type of information for orchestration, it really helps you to build and maintain this personal relationship. Not only building and maintaining this relationship, but also to really spend your marketing budget a lot more efficiently, because you now can really target certain segments that with calls to actions that really put people into more into the direction of buying or into awareness. So it's really about seeing the customer not only as a profile, but kind of more as a person, and as a person in an individual journey, and to provide content relevant to that person in their individual journey. And that's it. So we have a bit of time left for questions. I see a few questions blinking here. So at this point already, thanks a lot for participating and for being interested in this topic. And I am taking a look at the questions. So one is the first question I see here is if a CDP is integrated with Salesforce CRM or how the exchange of the data is taking place. Yes. So a CDP, like there is a Salesforce CDP, which is naturally very integrated in the Salesforce architecture, and there's no easy way of saying, okay, CDPX might integrate better with marketing platform Y. So it usually works like most of them are cloud-based. So you'll have some sort of a database where the data is flowing into and is manipulated prior to that. For example, using Lambda functions if you're using AWS. Or equivalent forms of data manipulation before that. So it's really there's no real general answer to that. It really depends on the vendor of your CDP and your overall architecture.
I can maybe add that this is actually like the biggest pro of having CDP. Most of the CDPs have basically out-of-box connectors to, let's say, most and widely used data sources, including the Salesforce CDP, so CRM, or maybe like other big vendors, maybe like Zendesk, etc. Right? So it's usually going through some REST API integration, but basically the native stuff is usually used there. Right? But as Jonas said, right, if you don't want to risk it and you already have, for example, some Salesforce suites in place, then maybe you can start looking at the Salesforce CDP.
Exactly. So the next question I have here is about consent. So how to handle the multitude of given permissions and consents across different tools or channels. Exactly. So this again comes back to these kind of two layers of defense, right? So what is being tracked is usually handled via the touch point. So for example, via your CMS, you can integrate a consent banner that prevents any data from being tracked on your website, you know, with rolling with that example. There are tools for that. So there's different client-side consent vendors that are really easy to implement and also work pretty well with basically most of the tag management systems that are usually in charge of collecting data from websites. This is on the one hand what you have, and then on the other hand, within the CDP itself, you have pretty strong capabilities of enforcing data privacy laws. So this can actually really boil down to a single column in the data profile table, which just cannot be shared, right? And yeah, this is also like this is a thing that you always need to be really aware of and always be in communication with your legal department to really mirror your data compliance, that's individual to your company, and really mirror that in the setup of the CDP. So again, sorry, there's no general answer, but there's a few ways, and there's a lot of ways to really enforce data privacy here.
I can see the third question emerging there. I can take this one. Hi, can you compare CDP and data lake and give us comparison between these two? So from my point of view, the biggest difference is basically the real timeliness of the data, right? In a CDP, basically all of the CDP vendors have some, basically are relying on the real-time data integrations. You basically manipulate mostly via using REST APIs, and it's basically a big transactional database where when you send data, you can see it right away and propagate it to the marketing channels. While data lake is basically much more data, but mostly batch processes, right? You can definitely have like, for example, some real-time integrations in place as well, but data lakes are mostly used for, let's say, handling, terabytes, petabytes of data, right? While basically for CDP, you just want to have like clean data, just your customer base, etc. Right? I think these two can really, let's say, complement each other, right? For example, if you would need, for example, to have, let's say we are in the 21st century, and imagine you are basically collecting all the data sources you have in your company, including, for example, some web server logs, right? Very granular, like individual timestamps, etc. It's unlikely that you would be able to fit in this data into the CDP and don't ruin your company on the, let's say, charges sent to you by the vendor. Data lake would be perfect place for this, right? So basically you would first maybe clean the data in the data lake, do some transformations, some heavy lifting there, and from there you can basically propagate it to the CDP, right? So this is how I would see them kind of complementing each other in the, let's say, mature IT enabled company. Yeah. So.
All right. So I see there's one more question. We're let's make this the last one because we're running a bit out of time. Of course, we can always contact us individually to answer these type of questions. There's also some material that we'll send around after this webinar to also cater a bit to your questions. So yeah, the question is how we feel about the future of CDPs and if CDPs will survive stuff like hide my emails in terms of the key value prop for omnichannel orchestration. And this is a good one. So basically, we're not only relying on emails, right? So as we saw in our use case as well, we can use basically any information that we're collecting to try to identify a person. Definitely, right? So we're definitely if someone opts out of that, this is not possible. But I mean, then this is a thing that we need to respect, right? So if things like hide my email or are in place, or if a visitor signs up for a newsletter but says, please don't contact me via newsletter, which I now realize is kind of a bad example, but you get the idea, then we'll have to respect that, right? But apart from that, it's it gives you a lot of opportunities to market. Also, what the future will bring, or what a strategy for that is actually to really try to make people sign up for with your brand in some shape or form. So this might be a loyalty program, like this might be a loyalty program. This might be some sort of other membership to really have these identifiable profiles. And this again caters to you building and maintaining a relationship with your customers. So it's really about incentivizing people to sign up, which is this huge focus on first-party data, right? So it's not about trying to get the email from somewhere when the person is signing up for a newsletter to scrape the DOM and get the email address from a hidden field or whatever. But it's really about being transparent about it and really asking people, or incentivizing people to sign up, for example, with some benefit of memberships, stuff like that. And this can also help you, right? And the CDP can help you with really achieving that by using, for example, anonymized data to do just a simple personalization on the website, where you see, okay, a person is not signed in and is not known to us, so anonymous, and then you just provide a personalization on the website, advertising the benefits of a membership, for example. So this opens up these kind of these kind of possibilities, and really helps you enhancing them. All right. So I think that's it for time. Thanks a lot for attending and for your interest in the topic. Feel free to contact us anytime if there's anything else that that you want to know from us, and we're happy to answer all of your questions. So that being said, have a great day from my side.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye. Stay safe.